Days after the West Bengal BJP Vice President Arjun Singh slammed the state leadership for not allowing him to work properly, he joins the Trinamool Congress. After a gap of 2 years, the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum begins in Davos, Switzerland. Minister Piyush Goyal to lead the Indian delegation at the 5-day meet. Farmers can change governments, Telangana's KCR says in Punjab as he meets families of 600 farmers who died during the nationwide farmers' agitation. He appeals to farm leaders to continue their agitation against the centre until they get constitutional guarantees on support prices for crops. A day after a mob sets a police station in Assam's Nagaon district on fire over an alleged custodial death case, bulldozers demolished the homes of at least 3 people allegedly involved in the violence. And the man of the hour, Thomas Cup champion H.S. Pranoy speaks to NDTV, says the world will be watching Indian badminton now. Hello and welcome to the news at 8. You're watching NDTV. I'm Sarah Jacob. The top story. After a gap of 2 years and the COVID-induced pandemic, world leaders have gathered for the World Economic Forum's annual meet at Davos in Switzerland. India has a strong presence at the global meet. It's said to be the 3rd largest delegation. The Union Minister Piyush Goyal is leading the Indian delegation at this annual meet. NDTV's Vishnu Som reports from Davos.
Hello and welcome to the World Economic Forum from Davos, Switzerland. It is a very important meeting of the World Economic Forum which brings together international leaders, brings together business leaders, policy leaders, academics, people from the world of arts as well. It is crucial this year because it's the first World Economic Forum meet which is being held after the pandemic actually stopped this from being held here in Davos in winter. Usually it's in the month of January that the World Economic Forum is held. This year it's summer, completely different complexion to the events over here. But the World Economic Forum says this particular meeting is very important because we stand on the cusp of a dangerous time in our history, something that needs to be looked at. The world needs to consider the crisis in Ukraine. The world needs to consider the fallout of the pandemic. Now that's a broader issue, but what about the India presence? Well, we are told that this is perhaps the 3rd largest India presence at the World Economic Forum since it all started with India making a serious mark over here. Unicorns, India's green strategy, India's startup strategy, India's digital space and what it means. Several chief ministers over here, as you can see behind me, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, they all have large pavilions over here. There are more than 250 Indian business leaders who are arriving, and there's this big India lounge as well. And all of them are trying to seek investment at a time when there are signs that India is coming out of COVID perhaps faster than several other countries in terms of the economic impact. However, there are serious concerns with regard to inflation, with regard to food security, with regard to fuel security. These are factors which affect India and indeed several other countries around the world. But let me show you something that's fairly interesting. If you walk with me over here and you come to the India Lounge, we've got this huge India Lounge over here, but right next to the India Lounge is the Russian War Crimes House. The Russian War Crimes House, which focuses on the war in Ukraine. And I think this is interesting because in a place where you've got the Indian presence, you've also got the Russian War Crimes House. Why is it interesting? Because India is one of the few countries in the world which hasn't voted against Russia in key international fora, which have criticized their invasion of the Ukraine. So it's all in the same place, and this actually sends a fairly interesting message. In Davos, Vishnu Som for NDTV. One of the major themes at the World Economic Forum in Davos this year is Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The fact that there have been so many human lives which have been lost in Ukraine, the fact that there have been so many reports of human rights violations, something that we as journalists have been able to independently corroborate, is something which is actually being discussed by world leaders. And over here, I'm at a particular pavilion which looks at Russia's war crimes in Ukraine. Ksenia joins us for more on this. She is a curator of this very sad display with images, in fact, including of graves which we have visited in the Chernihiv area. How in Davos this year are Russia's war crimes a primary focus?
Our focus is to show what Russia is doing now, and it didn't stop. It's keep going. We have here a map with the statistics. We have a lot of photographs of our artists and a video from Alexei's side with evidences of war crimes of Russia. And we do it in the former Russia House. But there is no Russia this year in Davos. But we wanted and we made it. We want to show the place what they are doing now.
Yeah. And where in Ukraine are you personally from?
I'm from Bucha.
And Bucha saw some of the worst I was in Bucha when a lot of the bodies were being exhumed. What was your family okay? Were they affected by this? Did they evacuate?
Yes, I evacuated with my daughter on the third day of war. I didn't stay at Bucha, luckily, and that's why we are alive now. And now with Pinchuk Art Center, the art center from Kiev, I'm making Ukraine more visible for the world.
This must be incredibly difficult for you personally. The fact that family members have been affected, the fact that there is so much loss. To put this together, tell us how difficult that was.
It was very difficult, and all our team, they were collecting photographs from our photographs, and we collected near 5,000 photographs, and we had to select them, to select the most speaking, the most prominent photographs, because our photographers, they are risking their lives to make these evidences.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for your courage in bringing this even more to the international forum. Just a couple of key points over here as we actually move to this area and take a look at some of the other images. Now, this is likely to actually have been a coincidence, but the India pavilion is located next to this particular pavilion which looks at the Russian war crimes. India is one of the few nations in the world which hasn't voted against Russia in key international fora, in other words, the United Nations, choosing instead to take a path right down the center. European leaders have always said India needs to do more. India says that our national policy is ours and we will be guided by self-interest. However, here is another interesting anecdote. The Ukraine House or the Ukraine Pavilion, which has been set up in Davos this year, has been set up by an Indian entrepreneur in Davos. Funding was difficult for the Ukrainian government this year. It was an Indian entrepreneur in Switzerland who chose to fund the completion of the Ukrainian pavilion in Davos. In Davos, Switzerland, Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Now the news from back home. Telangana Chief Minister Chandrasekhar Rao was in Punjab to pay tributes to the soldiers killed in the Galwan Valley clash and the farmers who died during the anti-farm law stir last year. He appealed to farm leaders to continue their agitation against the centre until they get constitutional guarantees on support prices for crops. Farmers can change governments, he said, while exhorting them to unite for a nationwide agitation, which he said he will join and support along with other opposition parties like the Aam Aadmi Party.
केंद्र सरकार को मजबूर करके अपने कानून वापस लेने तक जो लड़ाई जारी रखे, मैं उन तमाम किसान नेताओं को, किसान भाइयों को सर झुका के प्रणाम करता हूं। अगर हम किसान चाहते हैं तो सत्ता पलट सकता है, कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है। सत्ता कहां से आता है? किसी को भी पावर कहां से आता है? हमारे हाथों से आता है। आंदोलन जब तक जारी रखे कि किसान के उगाई फसल को सही दाम मिले, अच्छे दाम मिले, उसका संविधानिक रक्षा मिले, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल गारंटी मिले, जो पार्टी ऐसे कहेगी आगे चल के अगले चुनाव में, उसी को हम साथ दें। ये आवाज, इस प्रकार का ऐक्यता सारे हिंदुस्तान में अगर हमारे किसान नेता ला पाएंगे, ये जरूर संभव होगा।
जो आप लोगों ने अपनों को खोया, उनकी जान की कीमत नहीं लगाई जा सकती। अगर अपना कोई चला जाता है उसकी कोई कीमत नहीं होती। आज इस सम्मान राशि को देने का केवल एक ही मकसद है। हम आप सब लोगों को ये कहना चाहते हैं कि पूरा देश आपके साथ है।
And on Saturday, the finance minister made a big announcement revising fuel prices. The news was welcomed by the prime minister, who says it was people first for his government, but it has been received with skepticism by some others. The centre and the states are at loggerheads over taxes and duties on petrol and diesel. While the centre feels the states are not reducing VAT in line with the centre's cut in excise duty, states have expressed concerns over their fiscal cushion, especially with the GST compensation regime due to end in June.
A big relief for people across the country as fuel prices finally came down after centre reduced excise duty on petrol and diesel.
मैडम बहुत राहत महसूस कर रहे हैं क्योंकि 100 से नीचे आ गया एटलीस्ट।
जी, अभी तक कितनी दिक्कत हो रही थी, ये लगातार दाम काफी हफ्तों तक बढ़ते ही रहे, तो आम आदमी के तौर पे घर के खर्चे पे कितना असर पड़ रहा था?
काफ़ी खर्च पड़ रहा था क्योंकि बेसिकली क्या था कि जब पेट्रोल फिल करा रहे हैं तो पेट्रोल का टैंक में कुछ ऐसा लगता ही नहीं था कि 500 या 1000 का पेट्रोल फिल कराने के बाद कि कुछ पेट्रोल आया, क्योंकि लोकल एरिया में अगर हम करते हैं तो 2 दिन के अंदर ही सब कंप्लीट हो जाता था।
In Karnataka, Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai as well as citizens welcomed the centre's move. Currently, a litre of petrol in Bengaluru costs 101 rupees, down from 101 rupees and 9 paise, and diesel at 84 rupees, down from 94 rupees 79 paise.
It's a nice initiative because we've been struggling all time across, because one of the major things is about this domestic things like the petrol, the gas and even the diesel. It's a good initiative, I wouldn't say.
But still 101 rupees.
Yeah, but then let's hope and pray that things will get better and soon.
After Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman urged states to reduce VAT, Rajasthan, Odisha, Kerala and Maharashtra governments have cut VAT on petrol and diesel. Maharashtra government slashed the VAT on petrol by 2 rupees 8 paise per litre and diesel by 1 rupees 44 paise per litre. Kerala government turned down the demand from various quarters that it should reduce its share of taxes on petrol and diesel. Finance Minister K.N. Balagopal said that such a demand is against the interests of the state and its people.
After the centre reduced the prices, the state government in Rajasthan has also cut VAT by 2.48 on petrol and 1.16 on diesel. So now effectively Rajasthan, with one of the highest rates of petrol and diesel, has brought it down to 108 rupees per litre for petrol and about 93 per litre for diesel.
इससे बहुत फर्क पड़ेगा सभी को, हमको मजदूर लोगों को सबसे ज्यादा फर्क पड़ेगा। डेली 100 रुपए तेल डला के टोक फाट के जाते हैं, अभी 80 रुपए के तेल डला के टोक फाट के जा रहे हैं। 20 रुपए का दिन का बचत है मजदूर।
तो मतलब 600 रुपए 700 रुपए आपके महीने के बच गए।
हाँ, ये बच गए बिल्कुल।
तो मध्यम वर्ग के लिए तो बहुत बड़ा रहा,
बहुत बड़ा।
Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot tweeted saying, due to this, there will be a revenue loss of about 1200 crore rupees per year to the state and the general public will get its benefit. The state had suffered a revenue loss of 6,300 crore rupees due to the 2 reductions of VAT in the past. Adding today's deduction, the state will suffer a revenue loss of about 7,500 crore rupees per annum. However, other states like Tamil Nadu and Bengal have raised questions saying the central government can do a lot more to reduce the prices.
सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने जो टैक्सेस कम किए हैं उससे पहले टैक्सेस कितने बढ़ाए थे? 15 रुपये बढ़ाया, 9 रुपया कम गया। तो सेंट्रल के ट्रेजरी में जितना पैसा जमा किया है उसमें से थोड़े बहुत तो अभी दे रहे हैं। छोड़ दीजिए, राज्य सरकार की जिम्मेदारी जो है राज्य सरकार कर लेगी।
Tamil Nadu's Finance Minister P. Thiagarajan tweeted, the union government didn't inform, let alone ask for any state's view when they increased union taxes on petrol by 250% and diesel by 900% from 2014. Now, after rolling back 50% of the increases, they are exhorting states to cut. Is this federalism?
It's not good enough because they increase the price of
petrol and diesel by 10 rupees recently. Centre still has flexibility to reduce excise duty more instead of pressurizing the states.
The central government, which until a few weeks ago had put the onus upon states for controlling fuel prices, now says that the move to slash excise duty is meant to ensure that prices of essential items are kept under control, since fuel prices tend to have a direct impact on retail goods. Bureau report for NDTV.
We're going to go in for a short break. After that, we'll get you an exclusive report from Sri Lanka. After 40 days, the citizens of Sri Lanka still going strong with their protests. And finally, as promised, a special report from Sri Lanka. It's been over 40 days and the citizens of this island nation are in no mood to call off their protests. They've been tear-gassed, water cannons have been sprayed on them, and yet many of them, mostly youngsters, say they will not leave their site of protests until Gotabaya Rajapaksa steps down. NDTV Srija MS reports from Sri Lanka, and she shows you what 24 hours looks like in Gotabaya.
As much as as far as the Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigns, if he resigns tomorrow, we can go home. If he resigns in another 100 days, we'll have to be here another 100 days.
These youngsters are relentless and they won't stop. This is the Colombo city, the epicenter of tens and thousands of citizens camping at the demonstration site named Gotabaya, demanding the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Adjacent to Old Parliament on Galle Face, over 70 colourful tents dot this demonstration site. Young and old alike have been camping at the site for over 40 days. These youngsters take turns protesting during the day and get together for discussions by the night. From dawn to dusk, Galle Face reverberates with slogans against Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and citizens have made this their home. Gotabaya hosts People's Power Tent, a library, theatre, a centre for petition, plastic recycling unit, kitchen, a media discussion room, medical assistance centre, Red Cross Society, a tent erected by environmentalists, a stage for the voiceless.
If I go across to a volunteer here from the library who says this was one of the places which they ensured is not destroyed by the pro-government protesters. You remember those are the protesters who came in support of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Mahinda Rajapaksa. They came and attacked these unharmed protesters. So they ensured that they could protect this particular library. How did you manage to ensure that the books are not destroyed?
They are come to attack here, but we here and that protect and we'll transfer that books from Red Cross. That is the international places, no? So we believe they did not attack there.
Okay. So you took the protection of the Red Cross.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And
where we don't go there. Only books placed there.
So you actually moved the books.
We want to
from
protect the books.
Yes. So you all moved the books from here to the Red Cross. Ensuring that they wouldn't really attack the Red Cross. Okay.
Yeah. This place buzzes with activities throughout the day and night. As dusk kicks in, people take turns. While some people return to their tent to rest, some others watch a movie at the theatre, while some are cooking and the rest are taking part in brainstorming sessions, and a few among the others like Nusli Hameen, Bhuvanaka, Gianna are keeping a track of donations such as food, essentials and clothes that come in from across the country and abroad, so they can distribute it amongst the protesters and the needy.
Despite the attack on Monday, in the numbers and in the crowd here, and people can have shelter, they can have food and water because a lot of people can't actually afford their essentials anymore. So donations, it's all purely donation based. The food, the beverages, all the essentials come through donors. They come and drop it off at the tent.
Nusli Hameen, a civil engineer and a youth activist, has been at the forefront of many protests from the start of the economic meltdown and has seen it all. From the arson and violent protests in Mariana, the protests at the Independence Square, to camping along with the others at Gotabaya.
We don't call it a day, but some people take shifts basis.
Yeah.
So some people sleep in the daytime, some people sleep in the night time. But the main protest goes on and on like 24/7. We never stopped protesting against this government.
There's clearly no day or night, and in fact we ourselves have seen right here reporting from Colombo that even after past, whether it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., people are protesting 24 hours round the clock, and it's been over 1.5 months. And just like Nisli pointed out, that they will go on with this protest. This Gota Gogama will be alive until Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigns. In Colombo, with camera person Galwan Murthy, Shrija for NDTV.
And that's the news at 8. Thank you for joining us.